Hello, I'm Corey Yoder of Coriander Quilts. I'm here with Fat Quarter Shop Studio, and today I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my fabric collection, Sugarcreek, with Moda Fabrics. This is the first collection that I've had that features both print fabrics as well as woven fabrics. So I have quilts here for you to see that use both of them. The palette is a nice warm summery palette. I really like using fabrics that are warm and happy, and that's probably one of the things I get told the most often is that my collections make people feel happy. So I love hearing that. I've got some pretty corals and greens and aquas and grays. I always love having a gray to kind of balance out those sunny colors in every collection. So you see gray popping up quite a bit in my lines. This quilt over here is my Jelly and Jam Quilt. In this quilt, you will see just the Sugarcreek prints being used, and this is a jelly roll quilt. It's a very simple to piece one. The quilt in the center is probably my favorite pattern for this release. I release a new set of patterns with every fabric line, so you have lots of options for when the collection hits the shelves. This pattern is called Beholden 2, and it uses both the prints and the wovens mixed together. And I wanted to design something that looked kind of like a grandmother's flower garden quilt, but didn't require any paper piecing or specialty templates or tricky techniques. And so this is all just regularly hand pieced using stitch and flip corners, which a lot of you will be familiar with. And I love the way it turned out. It looks like a grandmother's flower garden quilt, but it's just straight piecing, nothing tricky. And I love the way it turned out. I have another Beholden quilt. So this is Beholden 2. The original quilt is larger blocks. So if you love the way this looks, but it's a lot of piecing, you might be interested in the larger pattern, Beholden. And those are 12-inch blocks, and these are, actually those might be 10-inch blocks, and these are smaller. So I love the way this one turned out. The last quilt here on the table is Pound Cake. So it looks like little hashtag pound signs, and it uses a layer cake of the wovens. And I love the way this one turned out. Also, it's a quick to piece quilt. It is soft and cozy, and I love the texture that the Sugarcreek wovens add to this collection. When I was putting together the wovens and deciding what kind of prints I wanted within here, I wanted the ones that had lots of the little, I call them stitchy bits. I'm sure that's not the right term for what they are. It almost looks like hand quilting, and that's what I love. You can add hand quilting look to your projects without actually having to do any hand quilting. If you have watched my other videos, you know I love myself some hand quilting. So this allows you to add that look without actually having to do any of the work. This print here is one of my favorites of the wovens, and it makes a great background. You can see I used it here in my Pound Cake quilt, and I love it as a background. And I used up almost my last bits when I was making my quilts, and I have now ordered it to have on hand all the time by the bolt. So I have that one by the bolt because I love it. The other one I really like is this pretty stripe in here. This stripe here works wonderfully as a binding. I love a stripe on my binding, so you're always going to see me putting stripes in with my prints and stripes just about anywhere I can add them so that I have them to use as binding. I love them as bindings. If you've never used a striped binding, that is definitely something you're going to want to do because it just frames out your quilt perfectly. The other thing I want to share with you guys is my solids bundle with Fat Quarter Shop. They carry a collection that I chose the colors that perfectly coordinate with any of my fabric lines of the Bella solids. I really enjoy working with Bella solids. So what we have here, I'm going to pull this out so you can see this rainbow of delight. It's the Sherbety color palette, and these are colors that I use in my fabric lines. They are warm and they are happy, and I enjoy mixing solids in with quilts when I'm working with prints, but I also quite like using them on their own as well. And this is a pillow that I pieced, which does just that. You see all of those sunny solids. This little plus print is from my Strawberry Jam collection, and you'll see it just, the solids look so sharp against just that little bit of print. So that's another thing I encourage people to try. If you've never worked with just solids, give that a whirl. You'll be amazed how dynamic they look on their own or mixed with prints within a quilt. So that kind of sums up my Sugarcreek Fabric Collection, and I hope you guys take the time to sew with it, and I'd love to see your projects.